Hello there friends and welcome. For today's Pathfinder video we have some very exciting news, as the newest DLC, The Last Sarkorians, was just released, together with a huge new patch. I'll be covering the new DLC stuff, including the new Shifter class pretty soon, but first, I want to cover all of the changes from the newest patch, 2.1.0u. And get this, if you were expecting nerfs, amusingly enough, some of the changes here will make your characters even more OP. So let us get into it, shall we? I want to first cover the ones I find to be the biggest of them all, especially gameplay-wise. And we have to start with the new polymorph changes and the direct buff to the Master Shapeshifter mythic ability. So, Aspect of the Wolf and some of the other animal aspect spells, together with Frightful Aspect, Genie Kind, Fiery Body, Ice Body and Iron Body spells, now benefit from the Master Shapeshifter boost and got the Polymorph Descriptor. For those of you that don't know, Master Shapeshifter is a mythic ability that increases all of your physical scores, strength, dexterity and constitution, by an untyped +4 whenever you are under a polymorph effect. Before this patch, this ability was decent enough but had somewhat of an issues because it used to work with a very limited amount of spells, like the ones that truly change your shape, such as animal shapes, shape change and so on, including the wild shape druid feature. The problem with these spells is, well, they completely change your character into another form and even replace your attacks. For example, let's have Cam cast the animal shape spell on our Kitsune specializing dual wielding and scimitars. We have now become a bear, but we lost a lot of attacks per round, which now have lower damage and critical chance and damage too because they aren't scimitars anymore, being replaced by claws. Now, through this new patch, you can easily bypass this limitation while still fully benefiting from the huge Master Shapeshifter bonus to pretty much any character you want. Because all of these new spells that are now classified as polymorph, well, they don't change your character's shape, they just grant you bonuses instead. For example, Frightful Aspect, one of the must-have spells because of the great synergy with Shattered Defenses. The same for, let's say, Ice Body and Fiery Body, they just apply bonuses on top of your character, so you get to retain your attacks and all that fun. For Kitsunes, they could just avoid it before by using the Change Shape ability they start with as a ratio, which changes them into a human, so they would benefit from the Master Shapeshifter boost. Now they don't even need that anymore. Just go back to your Kitsune form, we lost the bonus, but by simply casting one of these spells, let's use Aspect of the Wolf, we'll still get the bonus from Master Shapeshifter. And these spells are super easy to get too, I mean you can use them from scrolls, but ideally just cast them yourself. For example, Aspect of the Falcon is extremely easy to get from Ranger, Frightful Aspect for any caster, the same for Fiery Body and Ice Body. And of course, a Brown Fur Transmuter can cast any of these spells on any other character, because they're all transmutation. So essentially, any character you want that can spare a mythic ability can now acquire a +4 to all their physical scores. Considering most characters aren't that starved for mythic abilities, I'd say you can and should definitely rush for Master Shapeshifter. Now let's cover another very juicy change. All characters while mounted now deal double damage on the first attack when charging with spears. This damage will even become tripled with the Spirited Charge feat and quadrupled with the Cavalier's Supreme Charge ability. I suppose with this Hellcat wanted to make spears viable because by default they are pretty poor weapons, with low damage and low critical range as well. Now they have a very special feature. Charging is already extremely powerful, especially when you combine it with Spirited Charge, which by the way you can acquire as early as level 1 from mounted builds. And essentially, well, will let you one-shot most enemies. And this was before this change, so now your Spirited Charge instead of double will do triple damage, then one shot is pretty much guaranteed. So if you were looking to build a spear character, this is the time. Now let's cover other changes. The Aggressor Animal Companion archetype has been changed and the Bleeding Strike ability is available right at level 1, increasing in power at 5, 10, 15 and 20. The Bleed ability can be good especially early game, where chances are battles will last longer than one round, so the bleed effect can proc decently. But the damage and attack rolls boost is what really matters, I believe. You can get an extra +5 untyped to AB and damage, which is perfect for pets that have many attacks per round, like let's say the Smilodon. Losing evasion is a bit annoying because it reduces your pet's tanking capabilities, but you can just cast spells that grant elemental damage resistance to compensate. Of course, if you're playing a pet that can innately trip like the dog, the boar and the wolf, Bully is still by far the best. But at least there is a point to some of the other archetypes now, like Aggressor. Blade Whirlwind had no cost and metakinetic powers did not increase it, fixed yet, so it's not exactly a nerf to Kineticist, but certainly a fix that will reduce the spammability of Blade Whirlwind, because before you could just spam it together with as many stacked bonuses as possible, and it wouldn't increase its cost, no longer I suppose. Cleaving Finish feat working correctly, fixed. I think this is because before, the Cleaving Finish line, especially improved Cleaving Finish, worked in a bit of a janky way. It could potentially hit corpses of the enemies you killed instead of other ones. It needs some more testing, but if anything, improved Cleaving Finish should become a more useful feat now, especially if you have very high attack, so that your cleaves can easily kill the enemy, as to keep the chain going. Characters didn't receive an immunity to Vescavor's Gibber ability after passing the save, fixed. Thank God for that. I mean, you don't fight many Vescavors, usually only in the Leper's Smile map area for Chapter 2, but Vescavor swarms are super annoying exactly because of the Gibber or Gibber ability, as that you constantly attempt to confuse your characters. Now if you save once, you'll become immune, thankfully. Demonic Rage used to activate regular rage, fixed. This is interesting because, well, I thought it was an intended feature that is before. Let's say if you had a Barbarian and also went the Demon Mythic path. So you had dual rages. When you activated the Demonic Rage, it would automatically also apply the normal rage. I guess they changed that now, not sure why. Feast of Blood no longer affects undead creatures and constructs. Feast of Blood is one of the best Lich mythic spells. It has nice damage and also provides you with loads of temporary hit points per cast, even in the hundreds. I wouldn't say it's much of a nerf because honestly, the number of undead and construct enemies you fight in the game, well, it's a very, very small amount. Fiery Body, Iron Body, and Ice Body spells, well, they are now polymorphs, as I explained before, for the change to Master Shapeshifter, but since they are polymorph spells, they'll remove all other polymorph effects from the target, so it's a bit of a nerf, but not really that much of an issue. It does mean, however, that you cannot have a character with, let's say, Frightful Aspect, which is now polymorph, together with Ice Body or Fiery Body, as you can only have one polymorph spell effect at the same time. The thing is, usually you kinda just want one of them anyways. I don't think losing critical and sneak immunity from Ice Body is that much of an issue when you can just go for Frightful Aspect and ride a pet or have the reach that the spell gives you together with the Shaken Aura. Fix issues with damage for the following abilities, and then we have a lot of them. I believe this is because these spells, despite the fact they could be cast on other characters like Acid Maw and Firebrand, they will not only be applied separately, which means they could be multiplied even further for higher damage, but the damage source was also treated as if coming from the caster themselves. For example, let's say we cast the Acid Maw spell, which enhances the bite attacks of our pet. Before this patch, despite the fact it's cast on your pet, the damage source was counted as if coming from the caster, so the main character. Now it seems to be correctly fixed, so our pig here is getting the Acid Maw damage applied to itself. Freedom of Movement now gives immunity to the Staggered condition. I'm pretty sure it already gave it before, I mean. I've been saying you can bypass the Oracle's Powerless Prophecy curse by just casting Freedom of Movement on there, and so the Gendarme's Transfixing Charge not only works when the character is mounted, and stacks with even the further boost to spears, as I've covered before, for a total of ×5 damage. Kinda crazy because Gendarmes were already one of the best Cavalier archetypes. The Grease spell no longer works on the riders, only on their mounts. This is great too, especially for the early game. Bloody Spawn Large didn't add a bonus to large and huge targets, fixed. What this means is the Spawn Slayer class is now fully working, or at the very least should be. And it's one of the best of the Slayer archetypes. The Animal Growth spell used to give an enhancement bonus to natural AC instead of increasing this parameter, fixed. This is actually amusing, because we already know how OP pets are in Wrath of the Righteous, and this is a direct buff to them even. Before, Animal Growth would give a stacking natural bonus to AC, just like Legendary Proportions, but it would not stack with it. Now it does stack. We have a +2 from Animal Growth, and we can have a +6 from Legendary Proportions. so pets can achieve even higher AC. This one here from Cam isn't even buffed properly, yet we still have 70. The Trickster Mythic feats were added to the list of bonus combat feats of some classes. This is great. The strongest part of being a Trickster is exactly the special Trickster critical feats. Before, you could only really get them during normal level of progression. Now you can also get them as bonus feats for some classes. Although they changed this somewhat earlier, I guess now they just increased the number of classes that have access to them through bonus feats. Essentially, it's why you see me picking in some builds 2 of the Trickster feats right in just one level. Trickster combat feats will no longer be available to a lore master who is not following the Trickster mythic path. So that's the second time they changed it. At release you could get these feats through lore master secrets, then they prevented it, then allowed it back again, and I guess now they just reverted it, so nope. If you want them, you have to be a Trickster first. With that out of the way, let's now cover the changes to items, and there's at least one that is really amazing. We might as well start with that. The Ring of Triumphant Advance didn't double the morale bonuses to abilities, fixed. If you've watched some of my recent build guides, then you already know the Ring of Triumphant Advance is one of the best rings in the whole game together with Bane of Spirit. Certainly one of the best in slot even for almost any character. Before, it used to only double morale bonuses to attack rolls and also damage, saving throws as well. But now it can even double the bonuses to stats, pretty much almost any bonus even, which is a huge buff to Azatas because they have a unique spell called Believe in Yourself that can buff any of your stats, even of any party member, by a huge morale bonuses to a maximum of +5. When you combine it with this ring, we'll have +5 from the spell, and then another +5 from the ring, so that's a +10 morale, potentially to all of our stats. Another very powerful item to combine with this ring is the Helmet of Camaraderie, which empowers your armor class by a +3 morale bonus, something that will also be doubled. To put it simply, what was already one of the best rings is now even better. The Court Poet Skald class can also provide morale bonuses to your allies' mental stats. The effect of the Gravesinger Great Axe triggered more than once per encounter, fixed. I'm just covering this because I know people will probably ask about it. The Gravesinger Axe is indeed one of the best items in the game, and this isn't really a nerf to it, because the only thing that's changed is the secondary property, which honestly doesn't matter. What we want this axe for is for the increased critical range, which stays the same. The Wide Sweep Scythe now deals less damage to additional targets. Rest in peace, my friend, they finally nerfed it. Before, it could deal quite a lot of extra damage, almost full weapon damage. Now it's only the base weapon damage, so 2d4. Nothing special really. Definitely not one of the best weapons in the game anymore. Besides item and gameplay changes, we also have some performance and optimization updates, and even new items for the Skeleton Salesman, which I'll soon cover, as I've yet to find him when I was recording this video. Well friends, so this was it for my latest patch overview. If you found it useful, as always, please remember to like, subscribe, and also consider becoming a channel member. I truly appreciate your support. Don't worry, because I'll soon be covering the Shifter class and the other DLC goodies. Thank you for watching and see you next time.